Hello, and welcome to another Tuesday tutorial. I'm Lisa Mitrakin, and this is part 2 of the steampunk coloring. If you haven't already seen part 1, go see it right here, and then come right back. Alright, all caught up? Great, let's jump straight into coloring. I'm going to take my king card coloring page, half of which I already finished, and I will flip it upside down to work on the other half. I'm starting this mechanical version of the king with the white charcoal as well, but for a totally different reason than on the human face. Remember that on the human side, I started with white, establishing the parts of the face that will be ultimately the lightest. I didn't keep any of that white, I eventually colored over all of it. It was just there to help me see the lightest parts so that I can know where to place my shadows. In this case, the face is made out of metal. The white that I'm using here is here to stay. These are my main highlights. They're the shine on the metal. Will I add more of them at the end? Probably, but I like to establish the main ones now with my white charcoal. White charcoal binds beautifully to clean paper, but it won't work so well over colored pencils. That's why I'm starting with it. If you have a different tool prepared for the highlights, you can leave it all to the very end. For instance, if you're working with acrylic paint or a white gel pen, all of those are great tools to leave till the end. And actually, I'll be working with a white gel pen as well, but only for the tiny touch-ups after everything is finished. I now move on to the eyes. I want them to glow with that same turquoise color that I used on the goggle glass in the opposite side. I'm using the same exact colors to achieve this glow effect. Aquamarine, that actually looks like bright turquoise, sap green, 10% cool gray, and china blue. Actually, I kept all the pencils that I used last week where I left them in that little pencil organizer of mine. I didn't add or remove any. In order for this coloring to work the way that I want to, it's important to use all the same colors, just in a different ratio. The human side is very heavy on brown, orange, and yellow, with just an accent of turquoise. This side will be the exact opposite, heavy on the turquoise, with just a little bit of orange, yellow, and brown as my accents. The metalwork on the face seems very complicated, so it's important to establish the main shapes that define the face. I start sorting through all the mess of cables and rivets and bolts by using my darkest brown color on the seams and the deepest parts of the mechanism. I make the areas under the cheekbones, around the eyebrows, and at the edge of the goggles the darkest. And then I proceed to add gradients and light shading to the main metal parts of the cheekbones and the forehead. I decided to make the hair and the beard mechanical as well. Even though they look almost identical to the natural hair swirls on the opposite side, it just seems fitting for the whole head complete with the hair and the beard to be made out of metal. And now I switch to the 20% French Gray, my favorite pencil in the box. I use it to blend the dark brown with my white highlights. It makes for such a cool metallic effect right away. If you saw my coloring silver tutorial, there I also use light gray colors over my very dark colors to make this really cool metallic texture. It looks totally real. If you haven't seen that tutorial yet, I'm going to put it up there for you. Check it out. The metal is starting to look good, but I'm not entirely sold on keeping it a gray metal. The rest of the page will be very heavily colored with blue tones, so keeping the face gray will make the whole thing look too cold. I want this metal to be either yellow or to be reflecting a lot of yellow. So I'm experimenting. Let's see what happens. I start by adding orange all over. I'm using a color called mineral orange. I like it because it's not as vibrant as pumpkin orange, but rather kind of rusty. I'm using it here as my mid-tone, coloring all the areas that are between the dark brown and the white. I'm working with Prismacolors, of course. They're my main pencils these days. I think I like this orange direction. Let's enhance the effect with some burnt ochre on the side. This part of the coloring page is all about balancing colors, and also balancing light and dark. I'm jumping back and forth constantly, switching from dark to light pencils to adjust the look of the face as I go. And it's shaping itself. I can see the areas that should be darker and lighter, and I see certain elements of the face that are starting to look more defined. And I help them along by adding darker colors around them and lighter colors on top of them. This one isn't about matching colors exactly or using the correct colors. It's more about establishing the three-dimensional feel of the actual object. It's a challenging face to color, very challenging. It's super easy to get lost in all the little detail here. Remember to step back, literally step back from your coloring and see if it makes sense from a distance. Try to perceive this face as one single object. Your main elements here are the hair, the sunken cheekbones, and the low eyebrows. Define those and you're set. The rest is just cosmetic. The colors that you choose to use, the amount of highlights, that's all personal preference. That can vary, but you need to define the structure of the face for this to work. I'm starting to introduce dark purple to my shadows and more orange and yellow to the main parts. I don't want to overwork this face. It's easy to get carried away, add too many colors, spend too much time on every little nut and bolt, but I think I'm at a point where I clearly established that it's a metallic face and I can move on. However, I do want this metal to be a little bit more shiny, so I'm going to bring out my white gel pen. I add little lines and dots of white ink, occasionally smearing them with a Q-tip for a blurry light effect. But stepping back and looking at my creation, I see that the eyes don't come across exactly as I imagined. They just look like two deep blue holes in the face. It's hard to tell what's going on in there. But it's an easy fix. I'll just fill in the eyeballs with solid white, and voila! Now I can see the eyes clearly. It's obvious what they are, it's obvious that they're mechanical, and it's obvious that they're looking straight ahead. That's all I need to convey here. There's no need to overwork this area. Remember, on complicated subjects, your best bet is to keep each individual element as simple as possible, and the whole thing will just fall together like a jigsaw puzzle. Now, onto the background. Turquoise. We're going to need a lot of turquoise and vibrant. I'm not shy with my colors here. In this part right here though, I already have the letter K done in that same bright turquoise color. I don't want it to get lost in the background. My idea for this page was for every main element to clearly stand out through color and contrast. So I will make this area around the K yellow. Blending yellow with turquoise creates a really nice green glow effect. I like it so much that I will add it to the eyes as well. See, it's all about balance and adjustments. You can't plan all the little details on things like this. Sometimes you just have to go where the coloring takes you. I'll skip the coat part because it's kind of boring. It's just very dark, and that's actually intentional. I want the coat to be something that you overlook. It's not a main character, it's not even a significant element, it's just there. On to machinery. This background area is exactly the same as the flip side, and I'm coloring it in exactly the same way, but with turquoise instead of sienna brown. And I'm blending with sap green instead of yellow or cream. The important thing here for my effect to work is to keep this background at the same level of darkness as the flipped version. What I mean is, while the colors are completely different, the level of the colors should be the same. So if I want to drop the saturation entirely and make this page black and white, both sides should look identical when viewed in grayscale. For the moth, I also want to recreate a similar effect to the flipped moth, but with my blue color palette. And even though the enamel parts of the moth have lots of little details inside, I ignore them completely and cover that part with a solid color, with slightly darker blue around the edges and slightly lighter blue-gray colors in the center where the enamel kind of bulges a little bit. Again, the moth is the object of importance, and it has two main elements: the enamel inside, which I made blue, and the metal frame, which I made yellow. That's it. No more work is needed on this object for it to stand out. I could color in every little circle that's part of the inner design there, but it would only make the object look busy and probably difficult to identify for what it is from a distance. The little designs are still there, you can still see them. They still add to the overall look and feel of the drawing, but they're not competing with the object of importance. For the letter K, I want to go dark. Why is that? Let's take a look at the background. The bottom part is light yellow and the top part is nearly white, with a very brightly colored moss in the middle. So I thought, what would make sense here? What color can I use on the letter K for it to stand out? Yellow is out, white is out, we already did turquoise on the other side. What else? Red would work. Red would work beautifully, but we haven't used any red anywhere else, so in this particular piece, it would just look awkward. The only logical color that makes sense here is some version of a dark brown. See what I mean by things just falling together on their own? Now I have two main elements left: the club symbols and the pipes. These are perfectly mirrored to their counterparts, and I want to follow the same principle of coloring here as I did on the background, using opposite colors but on the same level of darkness and saturation. So for clubs, that's pale blue, done in the same way as I did the pale yellow weeks ago with little spots of white gel ink and the Q-tip smear and everything. And for the pipe, it's turquoise. That's the same intensity as the brown pipe. Oh, looks like I left the goggles uncolored. I think I had enough of metal coloring after I spent a whole hour on the face. Well, I had a nice change of pace with the rest of the page, so I think I'm ready now. I'm coloring these goggles like gray metal, using darker and lighter gray with some white highlights. And I'm using cream and light gray on the glass. No more turquoise. Using it here would distract the viewer from the eyes of the mechanical king. Plus, we already have turquoise glass on the flip side. Now, because it's such a complicated piece, I go over the whole thing, making tiny adjustments and corrections where they're needed. And for the final touch, I paint the border with cream and white to make it obviously look like a playing card. And it's done! This side took almost an hour longer to color than the first one, mainly because of all the detail work that was needed on the face. All in all, the entire page took 2 coloring sessions and 5 hours to complete. I think it came out great. I'm very pleased with how vibrant the colors are, how much definition I have on the elements, and how every major element clearly stands out. This is an important part of a coloring process, the completion phase. After you finish your coloring, spend some time with it. Prop it up against something, sit back, and just take it in. You just spent hours and maybe even days working on this thing. You're probably too close to the project and too critical on yourself. Get a cup of tea or a glass of wine, grab your dog or your cat, sit back, and just take it all in. Are you happy with it? How do you know? Being critical of your own work is a good thing, and being humble can be a good thing, but taking these two feelings too far is not productive. Learn to be honest about how good your work is. It's okay to be good, and it's okay to know it. Don't be too cocky though, just be fair. If you were as hard on everyone else's work as you are on your own, you would probably hate everything else that everyone posts. But I bet you don't. I bet you leave a lot of positive feedback on colorings that you see. Click the thumbs up, click the hearts and the smiles. It's okay to give yourself the thumbs up too sometimes. When you evaluate your own work, first look at the things that you do like. Make an actual list. What makes you happy about this piece? And how well does it match your expectations? Are the colors as vibrant as you wanted them to be? Do the colors make sense together? Is the style what you were going for? For instance, if you wanted a shiny metallic effect, does your object really look metallic? And so on. Having answered these questions honestly, now take some notes on how you can improve the things that don't match your expectations. If the colors look generally too pale all over, what went wrong? Were you just too timid with your saturation levels? Or is the brand of pencils that you're using not the best quality for the type of paper you're coloring on? Whatever the answer is, make a note on how you can adjust it for the next project. And of course, the most important thing is to follow your notes the next time you're coloring. And if the answer to one of your questions is, I just don't know how to make so-and-so effect better, let me know, and I'll make a tutorial about it. I'm here to help you become the colorist that you want to be. And on that note, if you enjoyed this tutorial, please take a moment to give us the thumbs up. I need positive feedback as much as anyone. If you want to try your hand at this page, you can find it in my book, The Four Realms. The link to that is in the video description. It's also a free gift page for my patrons. It will be up on Patreon for the rest of November and all through December. Don't forget to check out my Steampunk event in my Facebook group, Tom. There's a free gift page there as well. And there's a cool prize, as always. Just join the group, find the event, it will be a pinned announcement, and jump right in. Everything you need to know is in the event description. I'll see you there. Please subscribe to my channel if you don't already, share these videos with your friends, and keep coloring. I'm Lisa Mitrakin. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!